King of War. The stench of stale ale and fear hung thick in the air of the crooked tankard. I huddled deeper into my worn cloak, nursing a watered-down ale and trying to ignore the raucous laughter echoing from the corner booth. They were celebrating, those brutes, celebrating their glorious victory. Glorious? I'd seen what happened. I'd smelled the iron tang of blood and heard the screams that still haunted my nightmares. They called him the King of War, Gareth the Gutless. A misnomer if ever there was one. He was anything but gutless. Ruthless, yes. Cunning, absolutely. But gutless? No, he just hid it well. Better than anyone I'd ever seen. I remember the day he arrived in Oakhaven. He swaggered in, all broad shoulders and gleaming armor, a wolfish grin plastered on his face. He'd spun tales of heroic battles and daring escapes, charming the villagers with his boisterous laughter and promises of protection. We were fools, all of us. We bought it hook, line, and sinker, especially Alara. Alara, with her fiery red hair and spirit to match, had fallen for him hard. I'd loved her myself, quietly, from a distance, but she only had eyes for the King of War. I tried to warn her, to tell her that there was something cold behind those charming eyes, but she just laughed and called me a worrywart. Then came the war with the Northerners. Gareth, true to his word, led our small militia. He fought like a demon, a whirlwind of steel and fury. He was magnificent, terrifying, and undeniably effective. We won, yes, but at what cost? I saw him after the battle, not amidst the cheers and backslaps, but in the shadowed corner of the battlefield. He was staring at the fallen, his face devoid of its usual bravado. There was something else there too, a flicker of regret. It was gone in an instant, replaced by that familiar wolfish grin as his men approached. The celebrations that night were wild. Gareth, drunk on victory and ale, regaled everyone with exaggerated tales of his heroism. He even made a joke about Old Man Withers, who tripped over a rock and heroically sprained his ankle. The crowd roared with laughter. I felt sick. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went outside, drawn by the eerie silence of the village. I saw Gareth alone by the well. He wasn't smiling. He was staring into the water, his shoulders slumped. He looked small, vulnerable. "Can't sleep, Gareth?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He startled, turning around. For a moment I thought I saw fear in his eyes. Then he chuckled. "Just admiring the moon, lad. Beautiful, isn't it?" I didn't answer. I just looked at him. He knew I saw through his facade. He knew I saw the regret, the horror, the hollowness behind the King of War persona. He sighed, a sound that seemed to carry the weight of all the battles he'd fought. "It's a heavy crown, this," he said, gesturing to his head. "Heavier than you think." I nodded. "Why do you do it?" I asked. "The quest." I nodded. "Why do you do it?" I asked, the question hanging in the still night air. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a weariness that went beyond mere exhaustion. "Because," he said, his voice barely audible, "it's the only thing I know how to do." He turned back to the well, leaving me standing there in the moonlight. I knew then that Gareth the Gutless wasn't a monster. He was a man, a broken man, trapped by his own legend. He was a king of war, ruling over a kingdom of pain and regret. And the worst part? He knew it. The laughter from the crooked tankard grew louder. They were still celebrating. They didn't see what I saw. They didn't see the haunted look in the King of War's eyes. And maybe I thought it was better that way, because the truth was a heavy burden to bear, even heavier than a crown of gold.